Welcome to another episode of Deep Dive Podcast. Hope you are doing well and taking good care of yourself. We go beyond the headlines and uncover the truth behind real stories, real crimes, and real consequences. Let's move towards today's topic. Imagine this for a second. You're in a house in West London. It's early 2003. And there's one of those big, chunky camcorders rolling, pre-iPhone era.
The ones you had to balance on your shoulder.
Exactly. And it's pointed at a baby who's taking his first, those wobbly, absolute terrifying first steps. You can hear the parents laughing in the background. It is the definition of a picture-perfect life.
It's the kind of tape you find years later and show at a wedding. It's a promise. It's evidence of a future that's supposed to happen.
Right. Now hold that image in your head, because the whole mission of this deep dive is to figure out how, less than 48 hours after that home video was shot, that entire future was just erased.
And not through some random tragedy like a car crash or a fire. We're talking about the house just falling silent. There's food in the fridge that hasn't been cooked. The washing machine is paused mid-cycle.
And the entire family, a husband, a wife, 2 infant sons, and the grandmother visiting from India, they've all just vanished.
Into thin air.
This is the case of the Chohan family disappearance from 2003. And looking at this stack of source material we have, court transcripts, documentary case studies, police reports, this isn't just a simple whodunit. This is a masterclass in calculated deception.
It really is. It's a story about a trap that was set months, maybe even longer, in the making. And it's also about a police investigation that started off chasing ghosts, and ended up uncovering one of the most chillingly cold-blooded crimes in modern British history.
I think you put it perfectly before we started. It's a case of 2 halves.
Yeah, on one side you have this staggering level of evil, of pure manipulation by the killer. And then on the other you have this incredible forensic puzzle. A puzzle where the breakthrough, the thing that cracks the whole case open, comes from the most unbelievable place.
The clue from the grave.
The clue from the grave. I know it sounds like something from a bad detective novel, but in this case, it is a literal, physical piece of evidence that changes everything. It proves that even in the absolute darkest moment, the human will to fight for justice is just. It's extraordinary.
Okay, so let's set the board. We can't get ahead of ourselves.
Yeah.
Who are the people at the heart of this? Because on paper, and definitely in that home video, Anil Chohan seems like a man who had everything figured out.
He really did, by all accounts. He was the owner of a successful company called Seba Freight. It was a fruit import and export business based out near Heathrow.
Okay.
And the source is all very specific about what kind of boss he was, not your typical, hard-nosed CEO. His employees described him as happy-go-lucky.
The kind of guy who knows everyone's name, buys pizza on a Friday.
That's the one. He created a really relaxed, family-like atmosphere. He was wealthy, sure, but he was approachable. And his personal life seemed to mirror that. He was married to a woman named Nancy. Now, there was a bit of an age gap, about 21 years.
Right.
But every single source, from friends to family, says it was a genuine love match. They were devoted to each other.
And the family was growing, which just adds another layer of tragedy to what's coming.
A huge layer. They had a toddler, Devinder, and they had just welcomed their second son, Ravinder, who was only a few weeks old. To help out, Nancy's mother, Charanjit Kaur, had flown over from India.
So you've got this full house.
3 generations. That's a busy, happy home.
Exactly. But there's a plan, a sort of simmering plan in the background. And it's mostly Nancy's. She had this vision for the future that didn't really involve the noise of Heathrow or, the gray skies of London.
She wanted out.
She did.
Yeah.
And this is so crucial because it becomes the lever the killer uses. Nancy wanted to move the family back to India. She thought the education system would be better for the boys. She wanted a quieter life. And she was gently pushing Anil towards early retirement.
Just sell the business, cash out, and go enjoy the fruits of your labor.
That was the dream.
And it's a beautiful dream, but in the world we're talking about, a dream like that, a desire for a quick, clean exit, that's a vulnerability. It's a massive vulnerability. It's like putting up a flare for anyone who's looking to exploit someone. When you know a person wants to sell up and leave the country, you know they are psychologically primed to sign documents. Their guard is down. And unfortunately for the Chohans, someone was watching, someone who knew exactly how to use that dream against them.
Let's talk about him, the antagonist. Kenneth Reagan. Because if Anil is the happy-go-lucky boss, Reagan feels like a character who walked right out of a dark gangster film.
That's a frighteningly accurate way to put it. Reagan was an employee at Seba Freight. Anil had hired him, I think, as a driver. But Reagan was not just some guy driving a truck. He had a past, a big one. Back in the 90s, he was a known figure in the criminal underworld. He even had a nickname, Captain Cash.
Captain Cash. Very subtle.
Not his style, no. He was a major drug smuggler. We're talking about the kind of guy who literally carried suitcases stuffed with cash. He was completely obsessed with status, the flashy lifestyle, the power, the respect, or rather, the fear.
But by 2003, when he's driving a truck for Anil, that life is long gone.
Totally gone. The empire had crumbled, he'd been caught, served a long prison sentence, and the authorities had seized all his assets. So when he gets out, he's living in a tiny room with his father. A complete fall from grace.
So you have this man who is basically addicted to power and luxury, and he's at rock bottom, and he's working for a man, Anil, who has everything he used to have and lost.
It's a textbook recipe for resentment, catastrophic resentment. The fallen king serving the happy, successful family man.
But here's the part that I get stuck on, and I think a lot of people do. Anil knew. He knew about Reagan's criminal past, so why on earth would you hire him?
It's a tragic irony, really. It came down to empathy. Or maybe a bit of projection. See, Anil wasn't perfect himself. He had actually served a short prison sentence years before for tax evasion.
Oh, okay, so he'd been through the system.
He'd been through it and come out the other side and built this incredible life for himself. So he looked at Kenneth Reagan, and he didn't see a monster. He saw a second chance.
He saw a mirror of himself.
In a way, he thought, well, I got a second chance. I should give this guy one too. He assumed Reagan was just trying to get back on his feet. He projected his own values, his own capacity for reform, onto a man who was utterly incapable of it.
He thought he was helping someone who'd made a mistake, but he was actually letting a predator right into the heart of his life.
Right into the henhouse.
Yeah.
And Reagan wasn't working solo. He had his own crew, two associates, William Hornsey and Peter Reese. Hornsey is the main one to remember. He was sort of the muscle, the partner in crime.
Okay.
But there's one other person we have to mention because her role is just so strange, and it really speaks to Reagan's manipulative personality. Her name was Belinda Bruin.
The socialite.
The socialite, yeah.
Yeah.
She's a friend of Reagan's. He was apparently obsessed with her, told people she was like a drug to him. She wasn't a criminal, not involved in the violence at all. But she becomes this unwitting pawn in his game.
Oh, so?
He used her to create a veneer of legitimacy. He needed a respectable face, someone who looked the part, to front his schemes. She was basically a prop.
So all the pieces are on the board. You have the family looking for their dream exit to India, and you have the desperate, envious criminal looking for a way back to the top. How does he spring the trap?
He builds a lie that is tailor-made for Nancy's dream. He goes to Anil and says, basically, I have investors lined up, they're ready to buy Seba Freight, and the offer is £3 million.
3 million. That's the magic number. That's the ticket to India. It's their golden parachute.
It was perfect. Too perfect. And Reagan knew they wouldn't be able to resist. So the clock starts ticking. On February 13, 2003, Anil tells his staff he's off to a meeting to finalize the deal.
With these mystery investors.
Exactly. He says he's heading out towards the Stonehenge and Salisbury area, and that is the last time anyone from his company ever sees him alive.
That's the vanishing point for Anil. But the rest of the family is still at home.
For a little while longer, yeah. The next day is Valentine's Day, February 14th. Nancy is at home with her mother and the kids, and she's getting worried. Anil hasn't come home.
And she reaches out to her brother, right? Onkar Verma.
She does. Onkar's a journalist, and he's living all the way over in New Zealand. Nancy calls him. And you have to understand, Anil was a constant communicator. He wasn't the kind of guy who just goes off grid. For his phone to be off for a full day was completely out of character.
Very alarming.
And then, after that call, nothing. By February 15th, the line goes dead. No one can reach Nancy. No one can reach her mother. The whole house just goes silent.
And while they're unreachable, Reagan makes his move.
He does. This is where the deception just kicks into overdrive. He walks right into Seba Freight, gathers all the employees, and makes an announcement. He says Anil has sold the company. He and his family have had to move to India urgently due to a family health emergency.
The ill health excuse. It's so convenient, isn't it? It's vague. It shuts down awkward questions because it's personal.
It's the perfect cover story. And to make it stick, he produces documents. Official-looking paperwork, all with Anil Chohan's signature, transferring ownership of the company to Kenneth Reagan.
And he brings in his respectable face.
He appoints Belinda Bruin, the socialite, as the new managing director. Now, she knows nothing about the freight business. She is totally out of her element. But to the confused employees, it gives the whole thing an air of legitimacy. It looks like a real corporate takeover.
But the story had holes in it from the very beginning, and one of the biggest ones was a voicemail. This detail, it really gets me because it shows the limits of a psychopath's imagination.
It's a chilling detail. A voicemail is left on Ankar's phone from Nancy's number, and the message is something like, "We're leaving, don't worry, everything is fine." But it was recorded in English.
And why is that so significant?
Because Nancy and Ankar never, ever spoke English to each other. In those close, intimate family calls, they spoke Punjabi. That was their language. For her to leave this formal, sterile voicemail in English,
It sounds like a script.
it screamed coercion. It sounded like someone was standing over her, telling her exactly what to say. Regan could forge a signature on a piece of paper, but he couldn't forge the intimate texture of a family's relationship.
So Ankar, thousands of miles away in New Zealand, he gets this bizarre message. He doesn't buy it for a second.
Not for a moment. He just knows his sister.
Yeah.
He knows she would not pack up her entire life and move to another continent without having a real, tearful, hours-long phone call with him. So he gets on a plane. He flies all the way to London, and he goes directly to the house.
And this is where he finds that scene we talked about at the start, the Marie Celeste house.
A home abandoned in the middle of living. The washing machine full of clothes. Uncooked food in the fridge. But there was one object, one specific thing, that Ankar found that confirmed his absolute worst fears. It was the Guru Granth Sahib.
The grandmother's holy book.
Jogji Dakar was a deeply devout Sikh woman. That prayer book was her most sacred possession. The sources are clear. She never went anywhere without it. If she was really moving back to India for good, that book would have been the first thing she packed.
So for it to be left behind.
That was the moment. Ankar knew. This wasn't a move. They didn't leave. They were taken.
It seems so obvious in hindsight. The weird voicemail, the abandoned house, this incredibly significant religious book left behind. But the police didn't immediately jump to abduction, did they?
No, they didn't. And this is a frustration you see in a lot of these cases. Their initial theory was that the Chohans had done a runner.
Because of Anil's past conviction for tax evasion?
That's it, exactly. They saw that on his record, and their brains just went, oh, he must be in some kind of financial trouble again, fleeing his debts. It's kind of cognitive bias. And Kenneth Regan played it like a fiddle.
He fed them that story.
He actively encouraged it. He told the police, oh yeah, Anil was mixed up with some bad people, loan sharks. He used Anil's past to paint him as a fugitive, basically telling the police, don't look too hard for them, they don't want to be found.
He's buying himself time to cover his tracks.
And he bought a lot of it. There was this one almost comical episode, if it weren't so tragic. They called it the Wild Goose Chase. Reagan's accomplice, William Hornsey, actually sent the police all the way to Wales.
Wales? What for?
He tipped them off, told them Anil was going to be at a specific statue, a pig statue, in the town of Newport, to pick up a set of fake passports.
You're kidding me, a pig statue.
It sounds insane, but the police were so invested in the fugitive narrative that they went. They staked out the pig statue, they waited and waited, and of course no one ever showed up. But while they were doing that, Reagan and his crew were busy, very busy.
So when does the investigation finally pivot? When do they stop looking for a man on the run and start looking for his killer?
It all changes in April 2003, about 2 months after the family vanished. The scene shifts to the Solent, that body of water between the mainland and the Isle of Wight.
Okay.
A father and son are out for a recreational canoe trip, just a normal day on the water, and they see something floating.
Oh man, I can't even imagine.
It was Anil Chohan's body, and the state he was in instantly blew the whole fugitive theory to pieces. He was bound with parcel tape, and he had suffered severe blunt force trauma to his head. This was an execution.
And with that, it's a whole new ballgame. It becomes a category A murder investigation.
The highest priority. And once you have a victim, a body, you can start working backwards with forensics. This is where the police work gets really impressive. They dive into mobile phone data.
Cell tower pings.
Right, remember, this is 2003, so it's not the granular GPS we have now.
Yeah.
But they could still track which towers a phone connected to. They pulled the records for February 13th, the day Anil disappeared, and they overlaid the movement of his phone with the movement of Kenneth Regan's phone.
Let me guess. They were a perfect match.
A perfect digital shadow. The two phones moved in lockstep all the way from London to a very specific address in Salisbury. Number 3, Forge Close,
Which was?
Kenneth Regan's home address. So now you have the victim and the prime suspect placed together in the suspect's house on the day of the murder.
But Anil was found in the sea. The rest of the family was still missing. That brings us to the farm, right? And this drainage ditch. Belinda Bruin comes back into the story.
She does. Regan, in his attempt to sort of woo her and be helpful, had offered to dig a drainage ditch on her property in Devon.
It's a favor. I'll help you with your water problem.
The banality of evil. He rents a mechanical digger and excavates this huge trench. And Belinda even came home one day and saw him and Hornsey there. And she was annoyed because she hadn't given them the go-ahead yet. But she had no idea what they were really doing.
Of course not. Why would you?
But once the police connect Regan to the murder via the phone records, they go and interview everyone in his life, including Belinda. And she mentions this ditch.
And police start digging.
They do. Now here's the twist. By the time they get there, the bodies are gone. Regan must have panicked when he realized the investigation was closing in, so he went back, dug up the entire family, and moved them.
That is just a level of gruesome work that is hard to comprehend.
It is, but you can't beat forensic science. Locard's exchange principle. Every contact leaves a trace. You can move the bodies, but you can't move every single microscopic fiber and hair.
So what did they find in that empty hole?
Trace evidence. They found strands of hair that matched Nancy. They found a tiny piece of jewelry that was identified as hers. They found charred fragments of clothing. And the most heartbreaking find of all, they found tiny metal fasteners.
Fasteners?
The little metal poppers. The snaps from a baby's onesie.
Oh, wow. That hits you right in the gut.
It was the proof. It confirmed the entire family, Anil, Nancy, her mother, and those two little boys, had been buried in that ditch together. It proved they were all dead long before their bodies were ever found.
You could bury a family in your friend's garden while pretending you're doing them a favor. It's a level of psychopathy that's just off the charts.
Complete compartmentalization.
Yep.
For Regan, they weren't people anymore. They were just a problem to be disposed of.
Okay, so the police have the phone link, they have the forensic evidence from the gravesite, but they still need to prove how he stole the company. Because the signed documents looked real.
This is where the criminal's own arrogance, or maybe just sloppiness, brings them down. William Hornsey's son, the son of Regan's accomplice, he actually walks into a police station and hands over a suitcase.
His own son? Was he turning on his father?
The sources suggest he was just scared and trying to distance himself from it all. But inside that suitcase, police found a printer. And they found a stack of paper. Blank A4 paper.
Blank.
Almost blank. At the very bottom of each pristine, empty sheet was a signature. Anil Chohan.
Ah, I see. They forced him to sign blank pages first.
That was the whole mechanism. They must have held Anil captive probably for days and forced him to sign his name over and over and over. Then Regan could just feed those pre-signed sheets into the printer and print any contract he wanted on top of the signature.
That paints a horrifying picture of Anil's last days. He's trapped, he's being threatened, he's signing away his entire life's work, probably thinking if he just cooperates, they might let his family live.
And he probably knew, deep down, that was a false hope. He was a smart man. He knew who he was dealing with. And that brings us to the most incredible piece of this entire story. The clue from the grave.
This is the part that genuinely gave me chills when I was reading the files. It feels like it can't possibly be real.
It absolutely should. When the forensic team was doing the post-mortem on Anil's body, and remember this body has been degrading in the ocean for weeks, they did a thorough check of his clothing and took deep inside his sock.
In his sock
was a small folded-up piece of paper. It was a letter, a standard letter from a building society.
Okay.
The content didn't matter. What mattered was the name and address printed at the top of the letter. It was addressed to Mr. Kenneth Regan at 3 Forge Close, Salisbury.
No way!
This out.
Just stop and think about the presence of mind that takes. You're a hostage, you know you're probably gonna die, but you see a piece of mail lying on your kidnapper's table.
And you think, if they kill me, no one will know I was ever here. There's no link. So in a split second, when no one's looking, he must have grabbed it, folded it up, and hidden somewhere he knew they wouldn't check. He turned himself into a piece of evidence.
He left a message for the police on his own body.
A message from beyond the grave. It dated the crime. The letter was dated February 12th, the day before he vanished, and it physically tied the victim to the killer's exact address. It was Anil Chohan's last act. He couldn't save his own life, but he made damn sure he would solve his own murder.
That is, I don't even have a word for that. It's just heroic.
It's the definition of fighting back in a hopeless situation. He made sure his voice would be heard, even after he was silenced.
So let's put the whole narrative together. The motive is pure greed. Reagan wants his Captain Cash status back, and he sees Ciba Freight not just for its value, but as a perfect front for drug running.
That was the police theory, yes.
Yes.
The plan was to kidnap Anil, force him to sign the blank papers to steal the company, and then kill him.
But the family. Why the rest of the family? Why kill a grandmother and 2 tiny children, one of them a newborn?
That's the question that haunts this case. The working theory is that Reagan had a moment of realization. His plan had a fatal flaw. Nancy. Nancy knew Anil was going to meet investors. She knew his schedule. She would be the one who would never stop looking, never stop calling the police. She was a loose end.
So it was witness elimination on a horrific scale.
The coldest, most brutal kind. Regan and Hornsey likely went to the house a day or two after they killed Anil and just cleaned up. They murdered 3 generations of a family simply to cover their tracks. They didn't see a mother or babies. They just saw liabilities.
It's a threshold of violence that's it's almost impossible to process.
It shows the complete absence of humanity. He was willing to extinguish an entire bloodline for a freight company.
The trial must have been extraordinary.
It was one of the longest in the history of the Old Bailey at the time. The evidence was just so overwhelming. The cell phone data, the forensic traces in the ditch, the forged documents, and then the final, irrefutable smoking gun. That letter in Anil's sock.
And the verdict.
Kenneth Reagan and William Hornsey were both found guilty. They received life sentences with a whole life tariff.
Which means life means life.
Exactly. No possibility of parole. They will die in prison. It's the sentence reserved for the absolute worst of the worst in the UK justice system.
What about the third man, Peter Rees?
He got 23 years. He was convicted for his part in Anil's murder, but the jury cleared him of involvement in killing the rest of the family. He'd actually had a moment of weakness and confessed parts of the plot to a landlady while he was on the run, which helped the prosecution's case.
So justice, in the legal sense, was served, but for the family that's left, for Omkar Verma, it's never really over.
How could it be? They did eventually recover the bodies of Nancy and her mother from the sea so they could have a funeral. But the one open wound that can never heal is the children.
Devinder and Ravinder.
Their bodies were never found. They were lost to the ocean.
That's just an unbearable tragedy.
And the sources say Omkar Verma still has that home video, the one we started this whole conversation with, of his nephews laughing and safe, just hours before their world ended. That's the real legacy of this crime.
It really makes you think about the nature of trust. Anil's only mistake, if you can even call it that, was being a decent human being. He believed in second chances.
He did. He saw a man who had fallen and extended a hand to help him up.
Right.
And that man used that same hand to destroy him and everyone he loved. It forces you to ask some really difficult questions.
But I think you're right. Maybe we shouldn't focus on his mistake. We should focus on his courage.
For the letter.
The letter. In his final moments, he wasn't just a victim. He was the first detective on his own case.
He was. He reached out for the grave and pointed an undeniable finger directly at his killer.
And because of that one act of incredible foresight, Kenneth Reagan didn't get his £3 million. He didn't get his Captain Cash lifestyle back. He got a prison cell for the rest of his life.
Exactly. In the end, evil may have landed the first blow, but the truth and a piece of paper hidden in a sock landed the last one.
This was all for today. Stay safe, comment your views down below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. See you next time with another story in Deep Dive.